All right. Of course, when we're finishing one topic, it means we're going into another topic, and we have one final topic to cover today on this podcast. Ximming. What is it? How do you do it? How to not do it? And why is it bad? That's pretty much it. It's going to be a quick monologue. It's a quick topic.
I disagree. I disagree.
Oh, okay. Well, first and foremost, Ximming.
I know what it is.
Ximming is the usage of mouse and keyboard peripherals on a console. What this can do is it can provide a tactical advantage in the movement or the aiming on specific games. Some games like Farmer Simulator or Truck Driver Simulator, it doesn't really make a difference. It actually allows you to steer in a better way, much more fluid, etc. But with something like an FPS or predominantly an FPS, it creates a faster reaction time. It basically sets a new bar standard that happens. The biggest problem here is that a lot of console games, more recently, Halo Infinite, Overwatch 2, I think Call of Duty now does this too. But either way, these console games, they've basically added like an integrated feature that's behind the scenes on the games for auto aim. It doesn't mean that you're going to hit every shot, but what it does, it's like a snap. It's like a magnet. You get close enough to an area, it auto corrects into the center and will give you that benefit of the doubt. Doing that on the controller makes sense because controllers have certain limitations in how they operate. We're all familiar with them if you're playing a video game, going for anywhere from the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, old school D-pad to the greatest controller ever, the PlayStation DualShock 2, into the modern PS4, PS5, as well as the Xbox controllers at hand. There's a certain limitation, so the magnet aim helps a lot. And that's what Ximming is. Ximming basically exploits using a keyboard and mouse, which is easier to aim, less limitations on aiming that a controller has, and then benefits from that as well as benefits from those magnetic auto aims. So straight there off the bat, Nick, your thoughts on that? And you did come out strong with a disagreement. Tell me why so I can tell you you're wrong.
All right, so first off, right, I love the way you phrase it of keyboard and mouse is easier to aim, right?
I didn't say, sorry.
Harder to aim.
I'm not saying that it's easier to aim.
Mouse is easier.
Sorry, I don't want to say it's easier to aim. I'm saying it's more fluid. It's easier in like the flexibility and the fluidity, whereas a controller, it's the fluidity of the controller is a lot harder, not the actual mechanical.
Sure. As you heard it here first, in so many different words, it's better to play on a keyboard and mouse. That's what Billy's saying. Okay?
PC Master Race, let's go.
The console was punishing you because the games are worse on the console. So when you play with a keyboard and mouse, the games are worse on console. The auto aiming is not good in any shooter.
I'm asking you, why is it worse? Because it has auto aim? It's worse because it has auto aim?
It's a worse game because it has auto aim.
Okay.
Hands down. There's like...
Yeah, I just wanted you to clarify that. I want to understand what you're saying.
It's a worse game. It's a worse version of your game, no matter what. And then like, some people manipulated it, like, get wrecked. Like, take the auto aim out. The auto aim's the actual problem. And if your game is unplayable on console because you don't have auto aim anymore, maybe it's just an unplayable game on your console because your console sucks and you shouldn't play it on your console. Like, it's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. It's like, my music doesn't sound good on this. Can anybody do anything to this thing instead of me buying something else that'll make my music that I want to listen to sound better?
I mean, that part's a capitalist problem, right? That's a commercialization problem. And like, yeah, I agree with you that like, don't have auto aim, don't have snap lock aim and stuff, make a better game. But like, really the bigger problem, that is the biggest problem, tree hierarchy. But really this comes into effect because of crossplay, right? If you have a game on Xbox and being able to play against PlayStation, it's fine, it's fair. You play it on Switch, little bit advantage, disadvantage because the Switch controllers are a lot different. They move different, hold different, and the motion aim could potentially affect that as well. But when you crossplay to a PC, that's where integrity gets compromised. So then people, like, the designers want people to feel like superheroes. What was that, Nick?
Does that happen?
The crossplay, yeah.
When you crossplay, do you play against people on PC?
In Overwatch on quick play, when you cross play, you do play PC players against console players potentially in the same rank, but not in comped. Yeah. But even with
Ximming only affects the console.
well, so
right?
this is why the story comes up a little bit. So in console comp, they play against other console players, and that's where Ximming is a problem. That's where the story comes up because Blizzard is taking definitive action in Overwatch comp play for consoles, where there's been enough complaints, enough problems, enough sentiment that's negative for the game for console players, where they're basically just they're calling it addressing unapproved peripherals, but TLDR, they're banning Ximming. You cannot use a mouse and keyboard on an Xbox, on a PlayStation playing Overwatch 2. And they're going to be able to detect that peripheral, those peripherals, as unapproved peripherals, and then they're going to ban you. And the bans are pretty strict, and we can go into those details, but this is why the story comes up. And like it's that integration of different communities, different like groups that then like have friction when they come together. And like I feel for the player here. I feel for the console player having to compete against PC players. And if you're doing in quick play where it's like a pickup game of basketball, hey, whatever, no big deal. We're just playing the game to play the game. But if you're doing it in competition, that feels sweaty. That feels unfair advantages. That feels like a new bar is set, you know, where everybody has to hit that space minimally. You have to buy those things. So that's like just a brief overview of the interview and why, not interview, this article and why it's coming up on this story and why we're having this conversation. So I agree with you that like, hey, take magnetic aim, take snap aiming out of your game. It's a bad game, but developers are going to argue they're going to want to make players feel good. They want to make them feel better. And like, I don't discount that argument, but I don't think it's a good argument either. I don't think it's a good argument. It's get good, nerd, basically.
The context of it is in our downscaled game, we want players to feel better because it's a poor experience to play our game on consoles. Like it's a worse game. They're just sugarcoating it, this sounds like a hitbox situation to me. And I've already talked to you about the hitbox thing. I've been doing a lot of research on hitbox, the controller. And how, like, I personally think that this should be considered, like, probably cheating in fighting games because it's like $300 to get, like, a hitbox, you know?
And that's yeah, like, no, sorry, yeah. So to clarify, real quick, when you're saying hitbox, you're not talking about in-game developing character hitboxes, hurtboxes. You're talking about the peripheral, the game board that is physically different in fighting games. Okay, I'm going to bring that up real quick to reference it. But yeah, I agree with you. It's like having the turbo button on those like Turbo GX controllers to like do an action repeatedly, instantly.
So not really. Like the way the hitbox thing works, right? Like you're just using inputs instead of on an analog. You have buttons for up, down, left, and right.
Right. Here it is.
So it's like doing different combinations and stuff like that. Hitbox is the way you should be playing fighting games now, for the most part, because of the way that like a lot of the fighting game players have figured out how to I don't want to say like properly move their characters, but to like do things like look at the price tag. It's $250. It's different from like a keyboard and mouse, right? $60, and entry fee and stuff like that. But in Street Fighter 6, they changed it so that the console player and the person using hitbox have the exact same thing when they do certain moves, right? And now the only way to do that is to get rid of auto aim. The problem here is auto aim. It's not like there's nothing else here besides auto aim. So now you can't use a keyboard and mouse. And let's say you're not a PC gamer, but you like using keyboard and mouse and you've used it for a real long time on the Xbox because you could do that for a while. And on PS4 and stuff like that. You could use a keyboard and mouse because you play other games and stuff like that, right? You don't have to be a PC gamer to enjoy that style of input.
Right, but that style of input's more of a recent one. It's not if you're a console player and a classic console player, you're coming from an area of like controllers. And like to make the barrier of entry $250 if you want to compete, that's not healthy either. And I agree with you. I think auto aim is ultimately the problem. Design a better game, but like there's always going to be an arms race here. Like fighting games, this isn't the first time like a fighting game is going to have a mechanical advantage by a piece of gear here. There's been so many Smash Bros on the GameCube controller. They still use GameCube controllers on the Switch for that reason. There's now upgrading to something else, but it mechanically provided an advantage or a different ability so you can hit the controllers. You can remap buttons on things like that. Fighting games are the ones that you predominantly see stuff like that happen and be exploited. And some could argue in some degrees it's exploited in an unhealthy way. But you also see it in traditional sports with marathon running or sprinting. Nike Air Maxes have been banned in a lot of marathons or whatnot races because they have a carbon fiber layer in their sole that basically increase their runner's efficiency by 6%. That's if you want to compete in running, you have to buy a pair of those shoes basically because you're going to be 6% more efficient, meaning you're not going to get tired as fast. You could be able to run a little farther, a little bit more spring in your step, and it makes such a huge difference. 6% on this fighting game keyboard because you're able to input slightly different in a slightly different way. It's going to challenge the developers to make a change like that, which then brings us to Overwatch, changing that. This is the reaction to Ximming on consoles. They don't want the game on the auto aim. And I kind of agree where auto aim is the problem. And then the secondary problem is the crossplay. But we'd rather have more players play the game and play the games together and play the games with friends than have Ximming. So they're not going to get rid of auto aim.
I mean, I think it's just like so here's a weird thing. Like Blizzard loves to split their player base. I don't see anybody. I don't see it being like reasonable for players at a high skill level on Xbox or PlayStation to actually like watch Overwatch League or Overwatch Championship Series because they're not playing the same game. Like the champions that could be better on with auto aim on console with controller, if you're just limiting them to controller, and PS, I literally already just grabbed the accessibility controller. They'll never ban it, and you'll be able to mod the shit out of your thing and just zim the fuck out of everybody. Like, Blizzard is stupid. Their developers are idiots if they think that this would solve anything. Just get the accessibility controller.
I think that's
for people
why
with actual missing links.
I think that's why the language, as somebody who worked in community and whatnot, and like we had to like be on our toes and make regulations and policies for community facing people, like I think that's why they used the language they did, where it's like unapproved peripherals. So I think if they're doing something, they're going to do something where they can detect a certain level of modification, and then they're probably going to like just auto ban like over modification on accessibility controller.
I mean, like you mod it, like you personally mod it, like you're able to you're able to manipulate that actual device based
like a modulated exception. Okay.
Yeah, have you ever seen it?
I have not.
Controller for the
Xbox? I've seen a bunch of different things. Microsoft. I've seen a bunch of different accessibility controllers, and I know Blizzard has been making a push for accessibility stuff, and that was one of the reasons they thought WoW was going to go to consoles soon. Obviously, also because of Big Daddy Microsoft buying them, they're going to push for put it in the Game Pass, I think.
Thanks, Spencer. Yeah. Daddy Phil Spencer is doing like some of the Lord's work, kind of. He's like, listen, my Xbox games, I'll put them on other consoles. I don't care. My exclusives, whatever.
Yeah.
He like buys Blizzard and he goes, Bobby Kotick, get the fuck out of here, man. Like, he just like you don't have a job anymore.
Yeah, but he walks away with $40 million. Boo-hoo.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway,
but yeah, it comes down to the actual issue is the auto aim, and like I think the competitive integrity isn't there, and they're only trying like what they should be saying is competitive integrity for just the Xbox, and like just in general. And instead of just saying like, hey guys, you should all probably play on keyboard and mouse, and we took away auto aim. Like, because that's the preferred method to play the game. It's not controller. It's not on console.
I wonder.
Pay me some money. Get on my battle.net. Give me your email address. That's what they want.
I wonder too if that like auto aim is coddling the player. Like I remember playing games pre-auto aims, like gonna date myself, like late 90s, early 2000s, especially with like Halo 1, Halo 2. And like there's a certain degree of it already there, but like there is a skill in that. You practiced, you got better at it, and like it was more freeform, more janky sometimes. Playing GoldenEye on the 64, not going to go into the controllers and like how janky that was, but there was absolutely a skill in that, and it was more linear controls, more linear aiming. But like maybe that's that auto aim is coddling the players, where it's like you give them some time. If they love the game, you make a game worth playing, they're going to play it. They're going to get better at it. They're going to get better at aiming. And if you're giving them an auto aim, it might be like diluting that and causing its own problem. Like you're saying, like it's a problem that is its own solution.
Could you imagine if a Hanzo player who was a main on like a Hanzo main from Xbox talked to a Hanzo main from PC and they both were ranked the same rank?
Well, yeah, there's
like,
a lot of
I'd be
stories.
A little annoyed. I'd be a little annoyed getting the same rewards as somebody else, but
there's a lot of stories of console players coming over to PC and hitting GM, hitting top 500. There's some Rhine players that main Rhine and will play Rhine on controller on PC. But that's
he's a good one for it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great Reinhardt as well, and it's a lot of game sense in that, of course. So, like, you can learn the game sense. It's interesting because some of the game sense is going to be different because the game meta is going to shift a little bit because of how people play, the psychology around it. But I think that's kind of full on. Expect Ximming to be deleted from Blizzard's Overwatch's consoles, Xbox play, Switch play. I don't think there's any really keyboards on Switch, but I've seen it a little bit. And PlayStation. Hopefully this is something they can actually manage, because I know they have a hard time managing botting in World of Warcraft with auto. But I've got hope here. I've got hope with Microsoft and Big Daddy Phil making some moves. So I'm going to let them cook. I think this is overall good news. I think Ximming as a specific should be banned like this. So I'm happy to see it. Nick, any final thoughts on this topic you want to highlight?
Nah, just get rid of the auto aim. I think that's the crutch that you're on. Like that, not you, but like that's what they're on. The crutch of it is like we need to have auto aim there for our players to feel good. Like it's saying that your game is not meant to be there in the first place. It's the reason why I stopped playing Halo. The new Halo Infinite, like it's egregious, the auto aim. And I've never experienced the Overwatch auto aim, like on console, because I haven't played it on console. But it would probably have me stop playing the game.
And I don't think with Overwatch console, I think it's also a slower version of the game. Because of how fast you're able to do inputs. Like if you're a Genji on PC, you're able to 180 really easily with your mouse and keyboard. If you're a Genji on console, it takes you a little bit to 180. And a lot of that tech, like those faster play, So like, I don't think it's just Ximming in that way, but that's a meta change. That's a player psychology change, and it is what it is. Let's leave it there for now. We do have to wrap up. It's been a bit over time. This has been the Esports Meta. I'm Billy Sims. This is Nicholas Layton. We've had fun talking today. If you enjoyed what we're doing, hit like, subscribe, do the internet things, because we love to see it, and it lets the internet know that you like us too. You like what we're doing. So keeps us going a little bit. We're on all the different things, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. So wherever you find your social media, you can find us there. And check us back here at YouTube or Twitch, wherever you're watching us live. We do this every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's a lot more video content over there, etc. Us debating about these topics, us bringing you the news and updates about all the biggest esport competitions happening. Again, I'm Billy Sims. This is Nicholas Layton. This has been the Esports Meta. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
Catch you next time.